Hey YouTube, welcome back to All for Crypto. So I'm just gonna make this video today. There's been a lot of questions, a lot of when's this video going to be made. Obviously this isn't the video. To be honest, I'm fucked up myself really because I've jumped the gun, got really excited with all this information that I've received, and obviously for some strange reason thought I could compile it all together within a few days. And it's taken me about 4 days to even absorb the information that I've received. And hopefully, as you can appreciate, it is going to take some time to get the video right, because like I said, genuinely do believe it will be the most educational video that has been released for XRP, or something that's in, sort of the same sort of aspects for Ripple, XRP, whatever you want to call it on YouTube, educational wise. And it really help everybody then truly understand of where the direction of this is going, what has been planned and how long it's been planned for, how far back it is actually been planned for. So obviously I've got a load of documentation, a load of PFDs. I've got too much, I can't even fit it all into the video. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to talk to you about exactly what it is, so at least you've got an understanding of what to prepare for. So in the video, I'm going to be starting off from obviously the end of 2008. There was a massive financial crisis. Liquidity was in fact one of the main sort of destructional things that actually happened. Liquidity dried out, and as you can imagine, during the financial crisis, you've got a lot of selling, and if you've not got the buyers, then obviously the price is going to tank, but also you've got no liquidity into the markets. So basically at this point, central banks across the world, like I say, I've got this isn't information I've received. You can find this out on the internet yourself through encyclopedia, Wikipedia, whatever it's called. But obviously all central banks have come together. There've been in mass discussions about what had happened, how they can prevent it from happening. So obviously at this point they lowered interest rates to zero so they could inject capital back into the markets to provide the liquidity. So it's the central banks that during this downturn I had to drop the rates to 0% to inject capital back into the system, to keep it moving, to keep it functioning. And as I said in the documentary, all this has done is bought them time. It's bought the central banks time to basically think of a way that they can prevent the shortfall of liquidity in future upcoming crises. I mean, it happens all the time. But the thing is now, rates have been dropped to 0%. There is no... the central banks are well and truly, the backs are up against the wall at this point. If you was to drop rates any further, then you would be seeing negative interest rates, and you would get one-way hyperinflation across the world. It's basically, we're at a point now, economically, financially, into the monetary system where there really is no going back. We will see a monetary reset to a degree. That's 100%. I can confirm that for you. If nothing was done, if nothing had been put in order to protect the shortfall of liquidity for future crises, then we would see the ICE 9 that I did speak about. A global freeze, global economic freeze, just due to the fact because the monetary system can't function without liquidity. As you know, the US dollar contributes towards 65% of the world's global trade, and if there's no liquidity in the US dollar market, then money can't travel through SWIFT, and obviously you're going to get a knock-on effect. You're going to get the contagion that's going to spread around the world, and it literally would be a doomsday scenario. Literally, it would be. Now, again, I've received a lot of documentation, so the video, I need to get people to understand the seriousness of the liquidity crisis that did occur in 2008, and why central banks have been all working together in G20. I mean, you can see this out through the G20 summits. They've all been in collaboration, working with each other, and they've all been speaking about, they're calling it the Bretton Woods 2, the change of the monetary system. And this is as back as far as 2008. It is a major, you need to understand how seriously, economic-wise, that the liquidity crisis, if we used to have the same liquidity crisis now, today, without something set in position to cushion the blow, to provide liquidity, you would see it would just be hell. It would be hell on earth. Within a week, it would be hell on earth. There'd be rioting, there'd be crimes. It would just literally be doomsday. Now, as you can understand, central banks act as a major clearance and settlement house for its nation. So, for example, the Bank of England, and this is the one that I'm going to touch on the most in this video upcoming because well, I don't really want to spoil it, so I'll just continue. So the central bank, obviously, you know, back in 2012, there have been major upgrades for their real-time gross settlement systems in order to protect themselves again due to what happened in 2008. Now, the Central Bank of England wasn't affected as much as other banks, but when you do have a worldwide contagion, for example, Italy at the moment, you know, they're not in the best way shapes. ECB have just rejected their budgets. You know, the deficits are increasing. Listen, you all, if you watch the channel now, you know that economically the world is not safe, is a good way of putting it. But since 2012, Bank of England have been talking about serious upgrades to their real-time gross settlement. And like I say, I've got all the documentation to prove this. Again, it's just getting it all on the screen, on the computer at home, getting it all laid out, getting it. Well, what I get this spot on, it's absolutely spot on. But basically, they've been in conversation with Ripple since 2013. He carried out proof of concepts, and now they're actually serious about the upgrade of the real-time gross settlement system. And believe me, I mean, you all know about the work at the Faster Payments Task Force for the Federal Reserve. There's currently 19 selections of choice that they're going to use for their new RTGS systems. But there's only one in there that can offer distributed ledger technology and therefore a connectivity via the interledger protocol. Just so basically, all the as an overview, a good way of looking at it is all the major central banks in the world are upgrading the real-time gross settlement. So you've got your tip system in the ECB now that are offering new faster payments, and we're all trying to link it to Ripple. Is it XRP? Is it Ripple involved Swift? They've got their new Swift GPI, faster instant messaging layer system. Is it Ripple? Is it connected to XRP? Is it going to use it? But listen, I am guilty of this myself. I really am. But we have all been looking at this in the complete wrong way, mannerisms at what we should have been doing. Basically, I've got documentation as far back as 2012, 2015, 2016 of central bank intervention. I'm talking about distributed ledger technology, and now we can have a interoperable system on the RTGS levels. Now, the RTGS is the real-time gross settlement of a central bank. You know, the Federal Reserve Fedwire clears 6 trillion a day. The Bank of England does around 550 billion a day in settlement. Obviously, I'm not too sure how much of that contributes towards cross-border, but it's a lot. It's basically a lot. Okay, now you've got all of the world central banks upgrading the real-time gross settlement system so they are interoperable with each other with distributed ledger technology. And obviously it's the interledger protocol that is going to be the connector on the entire internet of value. So, you know, for example, you might have Goldman Sachs and Circle bringing out a stable coin. That's great. You might have Amazon and Western Union working on a new DLT platform. Yeah, that's great. You might have MoneyGram and Walmart that are working on their sort of a new system, faster payment. Everything you see around the world now is faster payments, and it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And what we've been doing as a community, and I'm guilty for this myself, I hold my hands up, we're all trying to find links and connections with these new systems to Ripple or to a Ripple product, XRapid. And what it is we have got it all wrong. Well, not all. I'm speaking about myself here. And over the past week, I've been in complete utter mindfuck territory is probably the best way of putting it, because I've always tried remaining grounded and very conservative about this investment and where it's going, and basically I basically not wanted to get my hopes up, is the best way of putting it. But all that is out the window. It's all out of the window. I can't thank the person enough. I don't need to keep saying the name. They know exactly who they are. I'm sure they'll probably watch this at some point. But I've received a shit ton of documentation of exactly how long ago and how far back this was all being planned for. But the great liquidity shortfall in 2008 made the central banks have to intervene, and they had to drop the rates to zero to pump capital back into the economy to keep it alive. On life support is probably the best way. This is why we've had artificially low rates for as long as we have done, is to keep the economy moving. Now, as soon as central bank, like for example, the Federal Reserve base rates increasing, most central banks will just sort of replicate what the what the Federal Reserve is doing. For example, Federal Reserve's a 0.75 basis point for its base rate on interest. So is the Bank of England, and you probably see a sort of convergence of the similar sort of interest rates. Of course, you've got your Argentina's 40%, because these are your emerging markets that are really struggling, and the emerging markets are a key integral part of what I'm obviously talking about, you know, with the contagion. You cannot allow too many emerging markets to fall, because there is investments of all sorts and capital locked in those markets, not necessarily locked. It probably might have been the wrong terminology to use for it. So obviously, like the video that I've had to make this because there's a lot of people out there, and I need to apologise first of all for making a pre-announcement video for it. I shouldn't have done it. I've just put that much pressure on myself to get the video out now, and I did put a tweet on yesterday. There's thousands of pages of documentation that I've seen for the first time in my life that has just knocked me off my feet, and I got a little bit excited. I got a little bit carried away. I sort of said to Scott, I said, I can't go back on YouTube now until I produce this video, or because, you know, for example, I'm being called out on Twitter. A bunch of the old 589 crew basically trying to say that I'm trying to get people to sell. I mean, has anybody in the right mind ever heard me ever talking about selling XRP? And it's not, I've lied to you. I definitely have not lied to you. I've got serious documentation that completely backs up the vision of what I have always thought, but I never realised the in-depth and the actual, it's not that it's just a technology revolution, fintech, on the side of XRP and blockchain and DLT. It's absolutely a necessary, it's necessary for the economy to continue with growth. It literally is that deep. And like I say, I've got documentation that shows all the central banks and real-time growth settlements have been upgrading. So the settlement, so they have got interaction with DLT, you know, interoperable RTGS systems, so they don't need to go through the SWIFT system. Now, obviously, SWIFT, as you can imagine, it does 6 trillion a day, and it's all based around Nostro accounts. Now, one thing that I didn't know is that 40% of the money tied into Nostro is actually debt. It's actually debt to allow that system to work. So, obviously, this is why you can see the one-way sort of. I mean, the Federal Reserve's balance sheet, the deficits are just, you know, they're just getting added to it and added to it and added to it. And obviously, it's no good for America. It's no good for the emerging markets. They're having to pump money into the SWIFT system just for money to be able to move. And it's all about taking the pressure off the SWIFT system by providing a new source of liquidity. And you can see where it's going already. A new source of liquidity. So, for example, when the Federal Reserve stopped printing money, the SWIFT system, you know, because it takes 5 to 10 days sometimes. If one bank sends some money and it takes 5 to 10 days to settle, then they obviously need the capital themselves to continue to function. So that's where printed money would come back into the system, and obviously that's where you get your inflation rates from and stuff like that. To obviously gauge correct correspondence with, you know, for example, your everyday shopping, milk, bread, butter, that type of stuff. But the thing is, obviously, this system is unsustainable at the moment now. It's literally, it's unsustainable the way that it is. And I've said it all along, Q4 2019, the Federal Reserve are going to keep increasing rates. And by doing so, it's going to cost more to service the debt. Therefore, emerging markets are basically going to. I mean, they're struggling to pay the debt now. What's it going to be like after another 4 interest rate rises? Yeah, it's unsustainable. The past's unsustainable, but the world that we live in today is all interconnected. There's no two ways about it. If one country was to fall, then there's other countries that are involved in it, whether they've got their own bonds that they bought from the country, debt, anything. Everything is interconnected. In 2008, they said the subprime mortgages in the US states would contained to the US, and look what happened. It shook the world off its feet, and the central bank intervention was to drop rates to zero, to inject capital back into the economy that was a shortfall of liquidity. I've got charts and stuff obviously for correspondence in the video to show you that. But what a lot of people are not failing to sort of understand on this entire sort of thing is the fact that, you know, yeah, blockchain's a great technology. Oh yeah, there's lots of use cases for it and all stuff like that. But it really is going to be. I mean, as you can see, the Federal Reserve, you know how in bed they are with Ripple. You've seen papers where they're talking about how they can source XRP for liquidity, instant. You know, it's risk-free capital basically that they can use to move money across borders. Whereas now, obviously, they've got all the money pumped into the Nostro accounts, etc. In order for money to move. So when the Federal Reserve stopped printing as much money, then obviously the SWIFT system, the Nostro accounts are not going to get as much money into it. So obviously this is where you can start to see the liquidity shortfall. If the Federal Reserve was to stop printing now and the increased rates, obviously that means that it's going to cost more to service the debt, meaning more US dollars are going to come back into America. It's coming back into America and it's not going to be able to service the world. If you remember, 65% of world trade is done in US dollars. So when there's a liquidity shortfall in US dollars, world trade cannot commence. It will freeze. They will freeze the system. That's what I've been talking to you about. Now, obviously, emerging markets, most friction going into the markets with payments, most costly on all this. And also it's the problem where it's the emerging markets where we've got the serious problems. Now, the United States is great, America's great, all this shit. But emerging markets are on their ass. Look at Argentina, 40% interest rates because of the debt situation that they're in. Because they had to borrow a load of money from the US during the last crisis. They've had it all in 0% interest rates, but now we're getting interest rates going higher. It's actually costing more to service that debt, and Argentina will simply and utterly default if the system was to continue the way that it is. But believe me, people, there is being major plans within plans to prevent the upcoming liquidity crisis. And honest to God, it sounds like a load of bollocks. This is why I got excited, and this is why. Because I've had these documentations presented to me, it's absolutely just complete. I mean, the penny dropped with Ripple. It dropped for me a long time ago, but a fucking brick has just fell off the bridge and hit me in the face. That's how I feel. I really do. And like I say, I probably won't be able to cover all the PFDs, but I'll be sure. We've started a new Telegram. We're getting a lot of good conversation in there. You know, not a lot of bullshit as well. It's really in depth, decent conversation. So when I have done the video, I will pin a message to the top so you can actually read these PDFs yourself. There's like 56 pages to some of them, but they're all saying the same thing. That's what I will say. And it's not just that. We're talking major banks worldwide. Listen, there's an infrastructure being placed. I call it the machine. It's the fucking economic machine. It is the life support machine to keep the economy going during what's about to, you know, start happening. And we will see demand lifted from the US dollar moving forward. It's not going to happen overnight, this. But, you know, as today you've got the Iran sanctions, Iran can't use SWIFT. There's demand taken away from the SWIFT system straight away. But over time, the SWIFT system will be replaced. We all know that. The correspondent banking, you know, the spaghetti of banking, we no longer need it. Not with the technology we've got. But obviously we're not scalable yet. We're nowhere near the scalability for RTGS systems that are settling trillions a day. They can't use XRP at the moment, XRP, as a source of liquidity, because it's just not ready for it. But we have got emerging market, you know, we've got the remittance into the high friction borders, the expensive ones, like you say, New Mexico, the Philippines, and we've seen small remittance pay in there now. And obviously the system is more than capable of handling that type of capital flow. But if you notice what Ripple's game plan then is to aid payments into emerging markets, and it's emerging markets that are currently feeling this the most. So in order to, and like I say, the documentation, I mean, the presentation is going to be good. I just wanted to make a video because a lot of people, not necessarily impatient, it's my own fault. I've fucking set myself up well and truly with it, and I'm fucking regretting it majorly now. But it's obviously, it's just the excitement that I had. And like you say, the documentation that I'm seeing at the moment, it's just, you know, whether you're a 589 or whether you're the most conservative of people in the world, honest to God, this video is just going to be epic for everybody to watch. For reassurance purposes more than anything. You know, you see a lot of competition out there. You people talk about Western Union, Amazon, oh, it's not using Ripple, XRP. You've got the new TIT system for the ECB. Oh, everyone's saying it's going to be using Ripple payments. You've got SWIFT, you've got Temet, all this stuff, you know, and there's just so much. People don't know where to look at the moment, and that's what I'm going to try and do with this video. I'm going to truly map out the internet of value for you. I'm going to show you some fascinating charts, PDFs that are going to show how this internet of value is actually going to function. And more than just showing you, obviously these central bank PDFs, these major bank PDFs that are supporting the vision of the internet of value, and some of them stem back as far back as 2015 with the banks. You know, they've all been talking shit about it this year, but listen, there is some serious architecture being built right now across the world. The plumbing is being done. You've just not got the water flowing through it yet. But believe me, on the level, the key players that are involved in this, it will work, and they will make it work because they have no choice but to make it work. Because as you can see, we have got an economic scenario on our hands where we could have another shortfall of liquidity, but you know, we're not able to support that. Not in this day and age. We cannot sustain such an economic crisis like that. Like you say, we will experience outright. It'll just be outlaw everywhere. Everyone will just do. Listen, it'll just be fucked up. Listen, and I've always thought to myself, surely if it's going to be this bad, they've got to have been planning something. You know, they've got to have something set in place. These central banks knows what's coming. The IMF knows what's coming, and surely they must have something in the pipeline, and they have. They have got something in the pipeline, and that's what I want to show you. I want to show you what all the main central banks of the world have been building towards. I want to show you what all major tier 1 types of banks, you know, like your Goldman Sachs and stuff, and just how heavily deep involved they are in making the new system work. It's all about putting trust back into the system. A lot of trust was lost in 2008. If we was to experience another epidemic crisis, and listen, they always talk about the upcoming financial crisis as being the biggest ever seen, and it would be. But I genuinely do believe that we're not going to see that now, and that's a big change of my opinion. And listen, you know how strong I've been talking. I've been talking about it on Twitter, in a documentary, and also I've been speaking about, you know, the economic crisis, the ICE 9 sort of scenario that we'll experience. And I've received a lot of information this week, well, last week, the past 7 days, that has completely changed my mind frame on my outlook. You know, the darkness, I had a lot of conspiracy side to stuff. Listen, I'm not trying to say it's all nonsense and that. In fact, all this information sort of backs it up to a degree. But I'm going to stay away from the darkness side, because I've got the pure factual documentation now where I can express it to you and show you all, and I will share it with you. So I just want you to be patient while I do make the video. You know, it might take up till the weekend coming up now. I wanted to try and get it done for this weekend, and I just look back and just even getting it planned out, so because I want to make this video so it's for everybody, for family, so you can show your friends, because I really do feel that this video needs to go around, it needs to circulate, so people can really see the opportunity that they do have in front of them, without no negative media narrative that are trying to push the retail investors away from this technology, because it really it's deep shit, trust me. That's all I can say. It's extremely deep, and I need a little bit more time to compose of the information. Now, I've started a Telegram group, me, Scott, Chris, Damore, and Maurice. We've all started a Telegram group because I can only make these videos every so often, and within the Telegram, I mean, I'm more talkative. There's a lot of good stuff being spoken about in there, and obviously if you have got any questions, you can be answered in there rather than waiting for the video. The video is going to knock you off your feet. I can promise you, it will knock you off your feet. It'll just completely confirm everything that you may. I mean, it'll be for the most advanced people in this space who've been in here for 4 or 5 years will love it. And for people who don't really understand what's happening, they'll love it. The video is for everyone, regardless of your expertise, your experience, what you do and what you don't know. The video is to fully educate you of what is happening, what has been happening, and what will happen. All backed up by documentation, PDFs, and some of which, most of them, are confidential. So again, like I say, thankful for the source who's provided them for me. They are legitimate, you know. There's no two ways about it, and I'll be going into some of them in depth. Some of them I'll be skimming over. I did say to Scott, you know, if he wants to do videos on specific documents to talk us through it, or we could. What I'm thinking about doing is pinning all the PDFs that I use in the video in the Telegram group, so you can just take them out and read them, because some of them are 56 pages and you're not going to get through them, and I can't certainly get through them all in one video, so I'm having to compress a lot of information. But yeah, at least you get the general idea now, you know, the liquidity crisis in 2008, something that had to be done. It was being spoke about in the United Nations and the G20. And then all of a sudden we've got the Bank of England in 2012 talking about updating their real-time growth settlement systems due to the financial crisis, in protection for further financial crises. Because basically there is no next time. There is no lowering interest rates to 0%. Look, we're struggling at 0%. We've had a 25-point base move and it's crippling everyone everywhere. You know, listen, if rates was to go negative, you're going to get one-way hyperinflation. It's just going to fuck the system up even more. A default is a better scenario. But how can you default? Who's there to inject the liquidity back into the markets? Interest rates are already at rock bottom. It can't happen. Something has to give somewhere down the line. And this is what all your central banks have been talking about in depth in conversation. I've got documentation about where they are in sort of adopting the technology, I did research, I did trialing it, proof of concept, I did live, I've got all the documentation, and like you say, it's from the central banks, and the RTGS systems, the upgrades that they'll be doing in order for them to be interoperable with each other. And what's interoperability come from? The Interledger Protocol, a Ripple software that was provided for the world to use. And guess what? What is the bridge that will create? You know, if you've got a Central Bank of England and they want to move funds to the Federal Reserve, yeah, usually now it'll go through the Swiss system. They're going to remove that. They're going to be interoperable with each other via the Interledger Protocol. And what is the bridge? How are they going to exchange? Because the RTGS system in the UK cannot communicate with the one for the Federal Reserve, for example. How are they going to do it? How are they going to exchange the value through the Interledger Protocol? I do not actually need to spell this out to you. It's XRP Ledger is literally the centre of the universe of the Internet of Value. And I've got the documentation to prove it. I just want to give you just sort of what the video is going to be about. A lot of people asking and thinking, and I just needed to do this because I do want to continue with these podcast style videos. And what I've basically done is I set myself up like a dickhead. Got dead excited, fucking said I'm going to do this, that, the other, and the information is just, to absorb the information has took me a long time. And it is in production, the video, don't get me wrong, you know, just creating a sort of a foundation to deliver this information to you from, and honestly God, it'll knock you off your feet. And if you've got any single bit of doubt in XRP, listen, forget about Ripple, yeah, okay, they've got a vast majority of the XRP, the escrow, you know, we can talk about the escrow as much as we want. I'm just going to stick to the facts in this video. But the matter of the fact is, it doesn't matter if Amazon or Western Union or MoneyGram are not partnered with Ripple. It does not matter about if they are partnered with Ripple. We've been looking at it wrong. XRP is the only thing that we need to be thinking about. And if all the new systems in the Internet of Value are to be interoperable with each other, then, you know, Interledger Protocol has become the standard, the W3 standard. You know, it is the standard of interoperability for all these payment systems. That's the factual, you know, that's basically what it is. And you can talk about Hyperledger, the Hyperledger Consortium. You know, oh, is that a threat to Ripple? It potentially is a threat to Ripple, but we don't give a fuck about Ripple. They're independent from the XRP. The matter of the fact is that Hyperledger have created the Hyperledger Quilt, which is basically embedded the Interledger Protocol as a standard for interoperability. Anything that goes through the Hyperledger will have to bridge through XRP to communicate through interoperability. This is the big picture, and it's the Internet of Value, and that's what I'm trying to bring to you with this video. But you know, for most of you who've watched it, you probably understand. Listen, I've got documentation, I've got the PDFs, I've got all the illustrations, all the artwork, I've got everything to basically help anybody understand, whether you're so advanced that they know it all, or whether they literally just watched the video for the first time. They will be able to understand all this mind-boggling fuck shit stuff, and they'll be able to easily digest it with what I'm showing them, why it's necessary, why it has to happen, why they're doing this, who's doing it, how long have they been doing it for, is it going to work, what is the end game. And if you've been investing in XRP, you are going to be very, very, very thankful in the future. And I mean, in ways that you cannot even understand. Listen, if you think oil is put it this way, XRP in my eyes, from what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, will be the most valuable asset on planet Earth. But listen, I'm not going to start throwing out price predictions, although I have done a couple of times. But it will become the most valuable asset on Earth. And I'm going to talk into it more about the volume, how the price can increase, where to look for price increases and stuff like that. I just wanted to make a little video just to I want to continue making these daily videos is basically what I'm trying to say. But obviously I've sort of said to Scott, I can't go back on YouTube until I've got this video out. But the reality of it is I'm not going to look, I'm in work here now, so I can't necessarily do it in work. I'm having to plan it all out and think about what the best documentation I can put in. That is going to knock you off your feet, because there's so much stuff that, there'll be stuff that I won't even cover in depth in the video that would knock you off your feet, is a good way of putting it. I'm just what I'm trying to do with the video is just trying to get everybody to truly understand the Internet of Value, how it's going to work, how long it's been in development for, and basically a good timeline of where we can see full maturity of the technology itself. So I'm going to cut it short at that. I've been pretty quiet on Twitter recently because I've been busy trying to do this video. I'm normally on Twitter all the time, so I do apologise for that. But we are on Twitter, and we're on Instagram, Facebook. More importantly, we started a Telegram group, and we've got some really good conversations going in there. People try to say I'm coming out with these videos to try and sell a Telegram group. Like, what the fuck are they talking about? Do you know what I mean? It's just a fucking chat room where you chat. There's no profitability for us in this. It's just great to have like-minded people who are willing to discuss the same stuff at a mature level and a factual level. So that's all I can say about that. Look, you know, if you're looking or interested in trying to find out more, you know, it's a very educational channel, the Telegram one. I'm actually starting to like it as one of the preferred sort of social medias. You know, Twitter's great for announcements, but you can have in-depth conversations, and there's a lot of like-minded, intelligent people who have just understood it and understand what it is. A lot of the people who watch The Future coming out, well, they may understand it to a degree, but I'm going to leave it at that anyway. Yeah, just give us time with the video. I promise you, I'm not lying. It'll be out and it'll be fucking epic. See you in a bit.